Hi guys, this is Frankenstein chapter 19, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Chapter 19 review, and so we have at this point Victor and Henry who have arrived in London, England, and they are traveling together. Remember the ruse, the trick, the play is that Victor needs to get away from civilization, from people, from anyone he knows, so that he can make the female creature. And so they stay in London for several months, and they kind of are, doing the things, making the connections, visiting all the places, the present point of rest. And Henry Clerval, remember, is such a positive vibe, a positive influence for Victor. He is learning about all kinds of things that he never was able to learn about in his course of study. And they are having fun together, but Victor is still trying to kind of get away. So Henry will go out and do some exploring, and Victor will kind of beg off. There's a quote in the third paragraph. I often refused to accompany him, alleging another engagement, that I might remain alone. He's still suffering kind of mentally about this task that he has to do to create the female. It says, I now also began to collect the materials necessary for my new creation, and this was to me like the torture of single drops of water continually falling on the head. You don't get any relief. Drip, drop, drip, drop. Really annoying and awful. The next paragraph mentions kind of where they're going. It says, after passing some months in London, we received a letter from a person in Scotland who had formerly been our visitor at Geneva. So, if you've got family friends or whatever, or maybe an exchange student or something, then when people kind of come visit and then they say, well, now that we visited you, why don't you come stay with us? So this is kind of the idea here, that they have a goal. And he mentioned the beauties of his native country as far north as Perth in Scotland. So you really should have a map handy for this chapter, a map of England, Scotland, so that you can kind of see the journey that they take. It's really very handy just to kind of give you a sense of the distance traveled and geographically the region of what it might look like. Also, my favorite movie is Pride and Prejudice, the one with Keira Knightley, and that one has such great scenes of the landscape. The landscape is shown in a number of scenes, and you get the sense of the rolling hills. You can see when it's green. You can see when it's less green, kind of golden, the open spaces, the herds, the castles, all the things that kind of lay out. Like, I totally recommend that movie. Plus, it's a great story. So you should probably just watch that anyway. So anyway, now that you kind of understand where they're going, the next several paragraphs and pages is all about kind of the journey. And the time, I would note the time that they spend, because remember that the creature said, I'll be watching you. And the creature is waiting for this woman to be created. And so it's like, well, how much time is this taking? And it says, we had arrived in England at the beginning of October, and it was now February. So they've been in London for many months, and they've spent time, and Henry is doing all kinds of study. It talked about him earlier, learning about his design was to visit India. The languages, remember, he had been studying languages and over at Ingolstadt. So in the paragraph where it says we had arrived in England, in this expedition, we did not intend to follow the great road to Edinburgh, but to visit Windsor, Oxford, Matlock, and the Cumberland Lakes. Again, look at the map and how it's kind of winding its way up north. And note that Victor says, I packed up my chemical instruments and the materials I had collected, like, ew, body parts and things. Yeah, that's what he needs. Resolving to finish my labors, assembling her, in some obscure nook in the northern highlands of Scotland, which again, you're going to want your map for. Then we quitted London on the 27th of March. Okay, so they had left, had arrived in England at the beginning of October, count the months, and then they quitted London on the 27th of March and remained a few days at Windsor, and then they're kind of rambling up. They go to Oxford. They continue. You can kind of jump through it. It's really lovely description. There's a lot, the romanticism-ish, there's a lot of description about nature and the beauty of it. But remember, this whole time, Victor's not feeling refreshed. He's not feeling renewed by nature. Henry is. Henry's having a great time. But Victor is stressed. At the end of this next paragraph, I enjoyed this scene, and yet my enjoyment was embittered both by the memory of the past and the anticipation of the future. That's the start. The last sentence there is really critical to show Victor's state of mind. You ought to flag this page. But I am a blasted tree. The bolt has entered my soul, and I felt then that I should survive to exhibit what I shall soon cease to be, a miserable spectacle of wrecked humanity, pitiable to others, and intolerable to myself. So when he says, I am a blasted tree, it's a metaphor. His whole life is exploded. Remember back in the beginning when he sees that tree and it says, the tree had turned to nothing but ribbons. Nothing was left of the tree but ribbons. The bolt of lightning strikes it and it's blasted. He remembers that. That was what started his journey for the electrical connection. And how this was before he went to Ingolstadt. So he's looking back and he's like, my life has been exploded like this. My soul, my existence, it's pitiable to others and intolerable. I can't stand myself. Really low. He's very low. So the next few paragraphs, we spent time at Oxford. We left Oxford with regret and proceeded to Matlock, which was our next place of rest. Look at your map. Then he talks about the type of landscape that they see. When they get there, he says it reminds him of Chamonix, which was where they were from and where all the bad things had happened with Justine. And he says, the latter name made me tremble when pronounced by Henry, and I hastened to quit Matlock. I couldn't wait to leave because I was starting to have memories of all these bad things that had happened. Then they go to Derby, Cumberland, Westmoreland, like you're getting really up into the northern part of England, below Scotland. And so then when they had been in England, in London, in the beginning, it says, if you go back, sorry, I'm going back and forth, but the fourth paragraph, it says, after passing some months in London, we received a letter from a person in Scotland who had formerly been our visitor at Geneva. So the whole reason they plan this is, because I mentioned that it's like the exchange student, or you're going to go visit somebody who has visited you before. So it's this Scottish person who has said, please come visit me, that they are making their way to. And when they arrive, so if you go up further into Scotland, then there's Edinburgh. North of there is Perth, and that's where this person lives. And so he says in the paragraph that starts, we had scarcely visited the various lakes of Cumberland and Westmoreland and conceived an affection for some of the inhabitants when the period of our appointment with our Scotch friend approached, and we left them to travel on. So they kind of have a time schedule, a timetable. And it's been many, many months that they've been in England. So he says, for my own part, I was not sorry. I tell you, the noises I hear, I just wonder if they're coming out on the video. Hopefully you can't hear all those stupid, annoying sounds. Anyway, for my own part, I was not sorry. I had now neglected my promise for some time, the promise to make the female, and I feared the effects of the demon's disappointment. It's again, it's the burden. He knows that the creature is watching and waiting and waiting and waiting. He might remain in Switzerland and wreak his vengeance on my relatives. So Victor here in the rest of this paragraph talks about what he fears the creature will do. Is the creature going to go kill my relatives in Switzerland, in Geneva? Is he going to, glut them all of death? Is he going to kill everybody I love? Or, and then he says every time he gets a letter from Elizabeth, because people would only, they don't have phones, so they can only write letters. And then if you're moving around, like they were in London for many months, so you can correspond with your family. But once you move on, then your letters have to kind of like follow you. So you would leave word at the place where you were staying and renting a room. You'd leave word, hey, we're going to go to Matlock. Hey, we're going to go to Edinburgh. Hey, we're going to go to Perth. And so your mail might finally catch up with you at one of these places. And so every time he gets a letter from Elizabeth, he's relieved that she's not dead yet. And it's like he kind of opens what is she going to tell me? Because remember the letter that he'd gotten from his father that said William is dead. He has like, it's like this nervousness about what possibly could be happening at home. Also, an important sentence here. Sometimes I thought that the fiend followed me and might expedite my remissness by murdering my companion. So he's afraid for Henry as well. When these thoughts possessed me, I would not quit Henry for a moment. I wouldn't leave him alone. I stayed with him, but followed him as his shadow to protect him from the fancied rage of his destroyer. And so Victor is haunted by this threat that the creature made at the top of the mountain. Then the next few paragraphs, I visited Edinburgh with languid eyes and mind. He can't focus. He really needs to get going with his project. We left Edinburgh in a week, passing through, all these places, St. Andrews along the banks of this river, to Perth, where our friend expected us. But when he gets there, he tells Henry in this paragraph, he says, I told Clerval that I wished to make the tour of Scotland alone. Finally, he is going to claim his alone time. And this next phrase, he says, do you? And in English, in America, everybody is like, well, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? It's a question. This is older English format. And so he's saying, do you enjoy yourself? And let this be our rendezvous. He's saying, please do enjoy yourself, you, and we will meet here when I'm done. That's what that sentence means. It's not a question, it's a statement, it's a command. You, Henry, enjoy yourself, and you stay here, and you wait for me here, and I will tour Scotland alone. I'm going to go off by myself now. So this is finally Victor's opportunity to get away. And he says that in this paragraph. I may be absent a month or two, but do not interfere with my motions. Don't get in my way. Don't try to stop me. This is really important. I entreat you, I beg you, leave me to peace and solitude for a short time. Isolation theme, of course. And when I return, I hope it will be with a lighter heart. So Henry, tries to stop him. I'd rather be with you, but and I don't even really know these people. I'm staying here in Scotland. I do not know them. And, but Victor's not going to be dissuaded. He's got a task to complete. So Victor heads off. He is now finally going to the north. And I want you to look up on the map where the Orkney Islands are. They are in the farthest north end of Scotland, off the coast of Scotland, so that you would have to take a boat to get there, okay? And they're very sparsely inhabited, not a lot of people. A couple paragraphs later, he describes how the soil is barren, scarcely affording pasture for the few miserable cows and oatmeal for its inhabitants, which consisted of 5 people. So 5 people live on this island where he is, and he rents a room. It says, Well, he rents a room, and hopefully I'll find it. Oh yeah, this I hired. He hires a room. It's 2 rooms and the roof is falling in. And so he basically takes a little time to have this place kind of spruced up just to a livable condition. The roof repaired, has people come out, bring some furniture. And then people don't bother him there. He says, as it was, I lived ungazed at and unmolested, hardly thanked for the pittance of food and clothes which I gave. He's giving the poor people who are stricken with poverty food, clothing, probably as a little bit of a bribe, like, stay away from me, don't bother me, leave me to peace. And it is in this place that he devotes the morning to work, but in the evening, if the weather is not raining, which it rains there a lot, I walked on the stony beach of the sea to listen to the waves as they roared and dashed at my feet. That it's all isolated. He's alone for the rest of this. He's thinking of Switzerland. He is thinking of the creature who he knows is coming. In the third paragraph from the end, he says, in this manner I distributed my occupations when I first arrived, but as I proceeded in my labor, it became every day more horrible and irksome to me. So sometimes I could not prevail on myself to enter my laboratory for several days, and at other times I toiled day and night. Remember the madness from the first time? He gets obsessed. It's the same thing that's happening now, but he knew that was coming. He described this earlier. He said, when I do this, I get into a state of madness and I have to be alone. So here he is. It was indeed a filthy process in which I was engaged. He knows the outcome. Okay, last time he didn't know what the outcome was going to be. This is a big difference. This time he's way more like disgusted with himself because he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's creating and what is going to become of her. So the final sentence there in that paragraph, but now I went to it in cold blood and my heart often sickened at the work of my hands. So he is absolutely like in the lowest mental state that he could ever be in because he is aware of what he's doing as opposed to last time when he was kind of in the dark. Thus situated, employed in the most detestable occupation, immersed in a solitude where nothing could for an instant call my attention, my spirits became unequal. I grew restless and nervous. Every moment I feared to meet my persecutor. He'll stare off into space at the ground. You know, when you do that and you're just like, oh man. But he is afraid to look up because he thinks when he looks up, he's going to see the creature waiting for him. So he has a lot of nervous issues right now, and he works and works and works. So things are coming together very quickly in this chapter. And that is pretty much how it wraps up. And click subscribe if this is helpful, and I'll see you on the next one. That was 19. We'll see you on 20. Bye.